was that state sponsored? Was it the whole government? Was it individual officials? It requires proper investigation. I think what's needed, it's not only him. There are so many killings that happened in the last 6 years. Assassinations.
To Orgesa, coming close to.
No, we have to go back. We have to go back to the killing in Amhara region.
Of the state officials.
The state officials and also the general.
This is by all means.
And both sides whom I knew and whom kind of knew something was about to happen, but nothing was done about it. Mm-hmm. There are a segment of the Amhara population who still believe someone who didn't do it, and there is a segment who believe he did it. The reason for that is not well known, because independent, proper, documented investigation was not carried out. Then we have the killing of the same night, the killing of the chief of armed forces, in a very strange way. Mm-hmm. No proper investigation was done. Mm-hmm. Then there is a chargeless assassination. There is.
Are we looking at the same scenario with the assassination of Bati Orgesa?
Exactly. Exactly. I think the culture. What the government's refusal to allow independent fact finding on these killings has deepened the culture of impunity. The Ethiopian state has always killed people, but it used to kill them as a state. It will come up with a draconian law during Red Terror. Remember, there is just and there is a reason. You might not accept the reasons. Mm-hmm. You might not accept the judicial process, but the state, Leviathan was acting. Yeah. Now, it's like the state has gone rogue, and that is killing, which is documented. And I don't want to say who did it and how. I know for a fact what happened there, because they kidnapped him in full view of the people and they shot him. They didn't know that there are guards standing and seeing them. But the impunity, the killing of the Karayua Bagadas, where they lined them up. It's not a killing. They lined them up and they did conference call.
And yet the Reuters investigation has revealed quite a lot of details on the execution of the 14.
There is something that report didn't do. The conference call. Which was recorded and presented to the Prime Minister, who gathered the surviving Karayu elders and distributed them weapons instead of distributing justice. This has emboldened those who want to use state as a cover to undertake what mafias do. And yeah,
I want us to finish the book, the conversation on the book. I don't want to preempt this conversation with a question. You wrote a part about the Tigray war. Then the book goes into the conclusion part. What most of it happened while you were in prison, and at one point you commented that it was a good thing you were in prison, because otherwise the madness that was outside of the prison would have pulled you left and right. And I asked myself at that time, there is no madness when it comes to right and wrong. What is the right and wrong of that war for you?
There was neither side is absolutely right, neither side is absolutely wrong, because this war, the prelude to it, is something I know intimately, detailed, and it was no surprise to me that it is heading toward the war. What I was earlier alluding to, Jalu, is had we not gone to war, had we not gone to jail, and the killing of Jalu did not create chaos in Oromia, I think we had a shot at just a month before we went to jail, a month or two. I flew to Europe to meet with a prominent Tigrayan leader, and there was so much effort that was done to bridge this gap. But there was also so much madness on both sides. You know what the irony? While they were waging wars towards eventual war, neither side were actually prepared. For example, the Tigrayan side, that's what makes this whole conflict weird. The Tigrayan side, they had very small number of soldiers. But the way they were talking in media is as if they were armed with nuclear. The federal government, the federal government side,
this group that published, they have like 250,000.
It is not misleading, but they were telling me. If it was misleading, it was the TPLF, the Tigrayan leadership was doing that. But it's not only them. On the side of the federal government, where they were boasting, where they were flexing muscles as if they were ready for war. But I spoke to a general after I came out of prison, a general who was at the front lines. He told me after 2 or 3 days of the war, and they've had no ammunition. That's what makes it extremely, there is like deep down, as if like they didn't want it. I think they thought that they can intimidate each other into standing down. That part is what made, and on to what you said, not being part of there. You see, as I grow older, I've become statist. I desperately want to preserve the Ethiopian state. And in prison, where I immersed myself into reading, and I've become so statist that there is part of it's evolving. It starts early. So I clearly saw the TPLF march could finish the state. One, I was also on the side of the people. I wanted the Tigray autonomy to be respected. I want them to be reintegrated back. So I was in fundamental opposition to Abiy's effort to crush them down and make them submit, dissolve their autonomy. So if I wasn't in prison, I would have been forced, It's like, I say this to give credence to people like you and others who took sides, this side or that side, because I don't want to be judgmental. Because I wasn't there. If I was in the field, this war, what's so painful and ugly about that war is not the killing. War, you die. At least for me, who was subjected to sit and watch it on TV, listen it on radio, the word is, I saw friends, progressive friends, liberal friends, people who used to advise me to moderate my tone, turn into monsters. And that was really, really scary. And I was glad I wasn't there, because confronting monsters could turn you into a monster.
Well, we can't always, I think history has to begin to reckon with how the political elite conducted themselves both before and after the war. I don't think history will be mistaken in judging how the war was conducted and the amount of violence that was meted out on civilians. We're talking about the amount of rape that women sustained, and hundreds of them, and hundreds and thousands of them. And I think in that regard, there is no right and wrong. To me, at least, there is no right and wrong in the conduct of that war. We could always, of course, go back and interrogate how the politicians have, the run up to the war, and also now what we are seeing. But that's not really the topic of this conversation.
But one thing is very important. Yeah. There is well, I totally agree. The atrocities was created in Tigray was horrendous. But the atrocity conducted in Amhara, when the Grand and in Afar. Mm-hmm. Because woman is woman, whether she's raped in Tigray or in Amhara. A household is a household, whether it's destroyed in Tigray or in Amhara. So it's very important that the degree could be different. The forces, of course, I hold the state at much higher standard of responsibility than rebels in terms of conduct. The state have to act as a state. The state did not act as a state. So yes, there is a degree difference. I just wanted to say it's very important that I'm not saying both sides. I'm not saying we should attribute equally. But I think there was a point to be made there.
The conclusion of your book is a topic that needs to be discussed in the contemporary aspect of it. What I did so far is to discuss your memories in your memoir that you called "I Don't Regret." Maybe as a way out, we will discuss why you called the title of the book "I Don't Regret." I often hear you, including an interview yesterday with the BBC, calling on a comprehensive peace agreement. Now, we're coming from discussing the Tigray issue, and I'm losing meaning in that. What is comprehensive peace agreement in the Ethiopian context today, where you see the state feeling much emboldened for consolidating power at the center, and a government that doesn't really care about the loss of control in the periphery, just 30 kilometers maybe outside of the capital. And you see insurgent groups asserting themselves and more. What is the appetite of what does comprehensive peace agreement look like? Because both seem to have found their own comfort zone in sustaining the current status quo. Where do we begin when we talk about comprehensive peace agreement?
The starting point should be by appreciating how almost everything has changed in the country. The state has changed, the nature of the way state power is conducted has changed, the way insurgency is conducted is changed from what we knew. The state, Abiy has more absolute power than the Haile Selassie who was appointed by God, who was by law, it's a monarch with unquestionable power, right? But Haile Selassie did not have that kind of monopoly over the state. That's one part. But this state has shrunk into itself. I don't know if it was Charles Tilly or one of the scholars say about state power. State power is measured by its ability to broadcast influence. How much of the territory it controls. Control means how much of the population and territory it is able to tax. How much of that territory it controls over means of violence. How much of it is under its control. That is the capacity of the state. That is state power. Now that has shrunk. Recently I have started to call in the Amara regime president, the Oromo regime president, Adanich and Abiy, co-mayors of Addis Ababa. They all live there, and they all just decorate the city. Outside the city, their control is very limited. They, from one district to another district, they don't drive. They have to fly because. So the control of the state has so shrunk. The state capacity, the broadcasting ability of the state has shrunk, but the control of, that power has become, exponentially big. It is into one man. So we have a very weak state that whose capabilities, whose muscles are so weak, but hard-headed. Insurgencies. Back in the day, insurgencies, the EPLF, TPLF, OLF, they started from a small nucleus, 5, 10, 15 people, usually at the university campus, get radicalized. They go create the nucleus, then expand, so that it's one vanguard that emerges. What we have, not only in Ethiopia, but in Syria, Libya, elsewhere, is a popular protest, a popular uprising descends into insurgency, where self-creating groups, just young men go to the bush, take weapons. They don't fragment, they start from there. Actually, fragmentation means they were one, they split. No, these insurgents, they are autonomous, self-financed, self-reliant. What they have with the name of, with the other insurgencies, they share common name, they share some common narrative. Besides that, the center does not really provide them much of the resources. They mobilize for themselves.